I think the one area where there's the greatest opportunity to make advances is in the medical. You know, the success of any sport club, whether it's football, American baseball, British Premier League, the impact of injuries, and really the loss, you know, you get players in the prime of their career, the lost opportunities of seeing these guys, you know, miss time through injuries. And you're never going to eliminate injury, but if you can find ways to be more predictive with it and minimize the downtime, I just think there's a lot of opportunity there. And it's still an area that, you know, we really don't have our arms around. So I think, you know, whoever sort of finds that sort of silver bullet and finds a way to solve, I wouldn't say solve, but minimize a little bit, that's areas we're looking at, certainly in the States. As long as technology keeps evolving and we find ways to collect data, I don't know that there's any end in sight. Really what we're trying to do is measure everything and collect all the information we can that goes on in a sporting event and decide later whether it correlates to winning baseball games or correlates to success. And that's really what all businesses are doing. Data collection, more exact data collection, eliminating human involvement in that data collection so it's pure, throwing it into a big vat and then, you know, sifting through it to find out what's actually applicable to what you're doing. So short answer is, you know, I think we're going to continue to find ways to do it. That being said, like businesses, you know, sport is a big business, so most of what we do, you know, you try and keep it proprietary, you try and keep it in-house because it's very competitive, and you want to make sure that any advantage you're able to create, you're able to hold on to for a while as well. So one great thing about sport is that you know, people have a passion for it. You know, and you don't have to have played to be able to contribute to it. And if anything, that I'm most proud to be associated with the book and what we've done is that it opened the doors for people who love sports that could now work in sports and bring ideas. And one of the things I do is I really try and hire guys that A, have the passion, but don't necessarily bring a traditional bias and an experienced bias to their ideas. I mean, so they're fresh, and I've got a brilliant group of people around me, but it's a very diverse group. I mean, you know, highly educated. It looks like I would kid myself. I can't believe I got a PhD who grew up outside the States, who never played American baseball, who's one of my most important trusted lieutenants. And he brings a very rational view to things, which allows me to keep my emotional check and allows me to, or at least my emotions in check, because I come from a player's background and I have certain experiences that will influence my thinking. And in many ways I want to keep that at you know, hand-checked a little bit, because I want to make good decisions, and guys like that help me. So I look for very different backgrounds when I hire. More than anything, I want a passion for what they're doing, but I also want really, really bright people that have a range of ideas that hopefully stimulate us to continue to progress. Because one of the reasons I think we've been innovative is because we've been forced to. Our revenue situation puts us in a position to where we have to do things differently to compete. And to continue to compete, we are always looking for new ways of doing things, and guys like myself who grew up in the business aren't necessarily the right place to look for that, because I have once again my own playing experiences that are going to create a bias in how I see things. You know, it's interesting. I think one of the things that numbers and objective data gives me, it allows me to become emotionally attached from my decisions. So in effect, I really don't want to have so those biases, things that happen during a game where you have an emotional reaction, to influence how I see something, because essentially in many ways the data is going to tell you objectively the value of an event or the intrinsic value of a player. So I actually use it in an effort to once again separate the noise from the actual real performance. my former assistant, I'd say my assistant's always the wrong word because he was really my right-hand guy, was a guy named Paul DePodesta. And brilliant guy, went to Harvard, econ major, not normally a traditional route into sports, although it is now, but back then it wasn't. And he brought a computer into a draft room years ago, and everyone looked at him like, what are you going to do with that thing? Right now, there's not a sport alive where there's computers on it everywhere. The one area that you really don't see them is on the playing field, in a baseball field. It's sort of been the last area they've kind of kept technology off the playing surface, so to speak. But every business today is getting real-time data as to how that business is doing at that moment. And I think at some point you're going to see that in sport, giving you information as quickly as possible, collecting data in-game, transferring it so that you have somebody on the field translating it and ultimately applying some of what you know to what's going on the field. We haven't gotten there yet in baseball. I think at some point, once again in my life, you're going to have somebody on there with a laptop computer with the headphones on talking to the manager, a baseball manager or a football manager, telling them what's going on and what needs to be done next. It's only logical, and you know what? That in itself is going to create great opportunities for people who, once again, didn't necessarily play the sport. The way for them to contribute and be a part of the business.